Hey everybody, welcome back. In today's video, I want to have a look at Bitcoin and altcoins and sort of see who's leading at the moment. Now, I've done videos like this before on the channel where I've pulled up the Bitcoin dominance. We've pulled up altcoins, some of the biggest, had a look at their USD pairs, had a look at them on their Bitcoin pairs. But today I want to have a more in-depth macro look where we'll have a look at the previous cycles as well and compare them. But also, we'll pull up a few charts that maybe you haven't seen before and you might find useful. So getting straight into it, we're currently at the 49% for the Bitcoin dominance, which isn't actually that strong. I mean, if we zoom out and give a look, we can see that usually during bull runs, we hit somewhere around the 72%. That's where we sort of peak, 73% even. So, and we drop down to about the 40%. That's our lows usually. So we're below the average at the moment, or the median, whatever you want to call it, the mean. But this is okay, this is fine, because I think we're currently at a pivotal moment. To give a bit of context on why I think this, if we go back to the end of the last bull run, 2021, after this sort of big capitulation where altcoins sort of rallied hugely, and this is when prices were going crazy for altcoins. May was when almost all of them put in new time highs. We see Bitcoin dominance naturally fall. It has to. If these altcoins want to go on 100x rallies, Bitcoin's dominance needs to collapse. And this is normal. It's happened the last cycle. Back up here, it's happened as well, but we sort of exclude these because this was when the market was a much more different place, when Bitcoin was basically the whole crypto space. But ever since Ethereum, basically, altcoins have had a lot more market capitalization. We see this collapse below this key level of 49%. Okay, and this sort of sets a resistance for the next 2 years, because it spends exactly 2 years below this line until it eventually breaks out. June 5th is when it breaks above. 3rd of May is when it breaks below. So 2 years, 1 month. Looking at this chart, what I see anyway, is we have this huge drop down, extremely volatile moves up, for the dominance. We have huge drop, huge pump, drops again, huge sudden pumps over a few weeks. 3 weeks here, we go back up, retest it. We have a huge sort of drop down. Again, a couple of weeks, we're back up, testing again. It gets rejected, goes all the way back down to 40. Same thing, 2 weeks go by and we're back up to the 47%. A few more weeks go by, we're back at 40, so on. Again, here, 5 weeks, we're back up to the 48. A few more weeks after that, we're down to the 40. Taking a look at 2023, okay, when this sort of climb started, that's what's the key difference, by the way. This time it's not just a volatile pump up. It hasn't just been a 2-week bender for the Bitcoin dominance where it's rallied up hugely and then just gotten rejected like it has every other single time against this 48%, 49% level. This time it's slowly and steadily climbed over the space of 6 months. Basically, it climbed up in June. So it took 6 months to slowly sort of, now we did have a few, we had one big pump, 2 here really, but the key difference here was it didn't just rally uncontrollably for a little bit and then lose all its momentum as soon as it hit this line and drop back down. It's the first time that it's actually put in more than, say, 2-3 weeks at a level that's near 48. You can see every time here, here was sort of the only exception, but this is when the market was going crazy. This is when altcoins were going up 100x and going down 100x in the space of a week, So this isn't the best sort of information to pull from, but here it's the only sort of time in a relatively calm market where the Bitcoin dominance has held at this level for more than 2 weeks. In fact, it held here for, 2 months probably from what this looks like. And then it broke above. And yes, it's come back down now. But it's taken 3 months for it to come back down to this line. And first of all, I want to say I don't think Bitcoin is going to drop back down. That's my opinion. I don't think it's going to go below this line again. Maybe it'll fake out, a wick and then climb back above. I don't think it's going to spend more than 2 weeks below this line, personally. The reason I say that, first of all, the climb. The climb was a lot different compared to what we've had here. And I think that shows that instead of it just being a week of hype or, say, a scare in the altcoin market that lasted a week, it's been something that's actually more healthy. It's grown slowly, and it's the only way that it's managed to break above this heavy resistance line. It's now come back to it, and this line is now support. I think we're going to climb up. I don't think Bitcoin has spent 2 years below this line. I don't think it's going to spend any more time down there. I mean, spending 2 years in this range, and it finally breaks out, finally moves above. I don't see it just going straight back down, to be honest with you. I think it stays above here. I think this is a very not ceremonial, a very key move that's happened. And I think this will the dominance will only go up now, in my opinion. Well, to an extent, sorry. I think we're on our way into a higher dominance, and we can see it move up to 60% within the next few, within a year sort of thing. I think the halving will sort of bring us up. And that brings me to case study number 2, last cycle. We see here we have our big sell-off again. And you'll notice I've drawn this orange line again that was resistance, acted as resistance. Orange line, resistance. We see bull market sort of goes, full swing. Bitcoin loses its dominance because altcoins go crazy. We have a bit of a rally here. Bitcoin loses its dominance again completely and drops down to the sort of 40%, and even goes lower, and it's 35. It climbs back up again, a bit of a mad rally. Very sudden, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. It's back up, it's back up 15%, basically. 15% in 6 weeks. Pretty volatile. Goes straight back down. Now here, again, it is still very volatile, but it's a steadier move. And you can see that it climbs up, has a retest here immediately, which is what we sort of did. We had a little retest here where it came back down, climbs up, and then comes back down to retest again. Now I could move this a little bit higher to match this up, and you can see that would line up much better with the drop here. It'll be much more whatever. It's not really too important. The idea is still the same, that basically we spend a few weeks going up once we break above this and come back down. If we take a look here, I want to see how many weeks it was. 8 weeks after we broke above. So when we broke above in 2017, or sorry, not 2017, 2018, it took us 8 weeks to come back down and test this. If we check here, it's taken us 12 weeks to come back down and test this line. Now, I know that's a whole month, but if you were to zoom out and I was to ask you, does this look much bigger than this move? Nobody's saying, yeah, they look basically the same. It looks like a small period of time where it rallied up, came back down, and now it's ready to push off again and pushes into a sort of Bitcoin dominant market. And we can see from this test here, Bitcoin went up, back up to the sort of 70% in 50 weeks, basically, which is pretty impressive. Now, if we go 50 weeks here, that puts us out in August next year, beginning of August, basically 11 months. Does that make sense to you? I mean, if we get our Bitcoin halving in April, May, June, July, August, 4 months after the halving, do you see Bitcoin's dominance going up? I do. I see that being a very real thing that could very well happen and has happened before. So why wouldn't it happen again? Now, I know you always have to be sort of, well, this could happen, that could happen. As long as you believe in the 4-year cycle, and as long as you believe that the Bitcoin halving will be bullish for Bitcoin's dominance, not its USD price, although ultimately I think it will be bullish for that as well. If you believe that the halving will be bullish for its dominance, then it's very hard to disagree with what this is showing us, to be honest with you. I mean, even here, when it broke above, sort of a 25% move up, it found resistance. Let me just check here. 25%, roughly the same level here. It could almost it could almost play this out exactly the same. So in conclusion, basically, to sum up this part of the video, Bitcoin's now finally broken above this extremely strong resistance. I think it's staying above there. I've told you why. You're free to make your own opinions on what you think will happen. Altcoins and Bitcoins can still go up on their USD pairs. This can happen. But basically it'll be Bitcoin that will be leading the way for basically a year from now on. So, whether you put your money in altcoins and it goes up, that's good. But this chart from the last bull run, again, it's historic data. Historic data never proves the future, nothing like that. Anything can happen in the crypto space. But if you hold any sort of value in this, in looking at the last cycle, Bitcoin's going to lead the way, whether it goes up or down in price. And it's from now. Now, I do think Bitcoin has more pain to go on its USD pair. I think we've put in our market cycle low, but I think we're still going to drop down a good bit. Anyway, now the next table I wanted to show you was basically, is basically the total market cap, taking out the biggest stable coin and divide it by BTC. And what this basically shows you is what percentage the altcoin market is compared to Bitcoin. So say if Bitcoin has a $60 billion market cap, when this graph is at 1, the collective altcoin space, including Ethereum, also has 60 or $600 billion of a market cap. So things like ADA, Matic, everything like that. Sorry, it's the top 150, I'm pretty sure. Not the whole crypto space, but the top 150 is basically all the value that's in the altcoin space. So when this is 1, the crypto market cap of the top 150 altcoins is the same as Bitcoin. And as you can see, we're currently a bit below. Getting straight into this, again, I've drawn this line here that I want to point out. I'll get into this before I forget. Last cycle, this is where we peaked during 2019, which is, a year before the halving, basically. It was April time, much earlier, but we can see it's the same level that we've peaked out at. And after we hit this level, we dropped. Altcoins lost a huge amount of value compared to Bitcoin, extremely quickly as well. Bitcoin just, took over, basically. And now this is more or less showing the same thing as the last chart, the dominance. but it shows it in maybe I don't know, in a more, I'll let it speak for itself. We're very close to coming up to this level again. Now, last cycle and the last chart on the dominance we were looking at, we saw that, you know, it wasn't exactly the same level, but it was a similar point. I mean, it was higher up on the 2017 bull run when we came to that resistant level at the same time this year, and we ultimately pushed through and bounced up. It was higher up, and it could be the same here. Maybe this point here was our peak, where it's slightly lower down this cycle compared to the last cycle. Now, to me, there's no point arguing that. Ultimately, it'll be the same thing. We'll be at this level, this 0.8 to 0.9, and we will reject down, and Bitcoin's dominance will go up, and the altcoins market cap will also go down. And whether that's because Bitcoin's price pumps or the altcoin market's price dumps, it doesn't really matter. Basically, at the end of the day, Bitcoin dominance is going up. If you want to take Ethereum out of this equation, I change this to total 3, and we can see that when this loads, you can see that when this loads, it tells a very similar story, where 2019 in April, about the same time, we peak out. You know, in the last graph, we peak here, and it's just pain for the altcoin space. Now here, I think we're seeing again a very similar sort of story, where, you know, we get this sort of, I think, to be honest with you, this part here compares very well to this part here. I think we see very volatile movements. I think like this collapse down and this move up is very similar. Collapse down, move up, collapse down, move up. You know, this collapse is very similar to this one. Move up, put in a peak here, and then just go down for, you know, however long. So this is what would sort of be my counter argument if I was going to argue with myself. I'd say, well, this is the drop down now, and from here we may climb for the next, you know, year and a bit, year and a half, but ultimately we will go lower. I can see that happening, to be honest with you. But also, these other charts, they're all just saying, this is excluding Ethereum now, so this is all Cardano, Matic, Solana, Avax, all of these. This is what the true altcoin market is, you know, battling with here. It's just down, basically, to be honest with you. And here is the only significant rally that we've had, and this has been since July, where altcoins have finally managed to put in a higher low, basically. 1, 2, 3 higher lows and 2 higher highs for the best part of basically 6 months, give or take. 7 months. Do I think that will last? No. And again, that's because of the last charts. I mean, they've just said that basically the altcoin market is going down, Bitcoin dominance is going up, and this more or less says the same thing, except for this, you know, like I said, these 2 higher highs, these 3 lower lows, but there is nothing stopping that from just reversing again. I mean, ultimately you could call that not even a trend reversal. I couldn't really call it a trend reversal. If we put on our Bollinger Bands here, you can see that we're still well below the moving average of the actual you know, market. And even here we saw a big initial sell-off, which could be compared to this one, rallied for a little while. This could be considered this. We might float around for a little bit, and then another big sell-off. Not sell-off, you know, like a drop in market cap value. And that could, that could very well be the same thing here. I mean, this movement, while it can be comparable to this one as well, could also very well just as easily be compared to this one, where we sort of have this drop, a rally up, and it messes around a bit, puts in another high, but ultimately just goes down. I think it's kind of, again, it's up to you what you want to believe. But for me personally, I'm not putting any weight into the altcoin market doing well compared to Bitcoin over the next 6 months. Or at least until, I mean, even the halving. The halving does well for alts, you know, it puts alts up, but Bitcoin's dominance is what climbs the most during the halving, historically. Whether this cycle is different, I don't know. Again, it's whether you still believe we're following the 4-year cycle, whether you think Bitcoin will be overthrown, or whether you think this, that, or the other. You can think whatever you like, but the historical data is basically saying the same thing, where we're still in this cycle and that it's going to play out the way that it always has. Now, whether there are some small deviations and variations, yeah, sure, it's definitely possible. I mean, nothing plays out exactly how it has. But does that mean that it will completely change from its ways and it won't visit these lows again? I don't think so. I think it will. Now, maybe it goes down to the 0.3 level. You know what I mean? Maybe that's its low. And maybe it spends most of its time at like the 0.34. Ultimately, more pain for the altcoin space. Again, don't want to let this video get too long, so we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks very much for watching, guys. If you liked it, please leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. What do you think will happen to Bitcoin? Will the dominance rise? Will it go up on its USDT value? Who knows? Let me know anyway. Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Take care and peace.